Hey there everybody! As promised, I've met my deadline and the new video is here. I had to re-edit a number of things because I was waiting for the 3.0 update to drop before I did this to see what they did, but at the very least it gave me more time to think through things and maybe redo a thing or two that needed it. But I'm all ready now, and today we're going to talk about the Arena BST and my take on how to fix it. Now, this has been a problem for quite some time, just because of how the Arena is set up to function. And Intelligent Systems kind of did it to themselves with the way the power creep has been with Armors and Dragons. I honestly don't think anyone here doesn't agree the Arena is a problem. I've seen on multiple forums discussing it, I've seen it across Saranus Forest, I've seen a lot of people hating on Armor Emblem, almost as much as I do. Almost. It's gotten a little excessive and it's kind of made the game mode a little unfun. But I've got a potential solution though, and I think you guys might agree it's a good one, even though it's only theoretical. So we're just going to lay out the entire idea right here, as soon as we discuss one thing. What's wrong with the current Arena? This might sound a little redundant, but I want to pinpoint exactly what the issue is for those who might not even understand, even though I'm sure most all of you do. The main issue with it is the way the Arena calculates score, and it essentially forces you into using certain higher BST units and builds over anything else just to make sure you're scoring well. Now, I do want you guys to know that the reason they set the Arena up the way they did initially was because when the game was first launched, it made sense to be done this way. When this game first came out, people weren't really thinking about Arena scoring because of the massive amount of content the story brought, and even if they were, you didn't really have many merges on units to work with, let alone a lot of Armors or Dragons. When the game first came out, feathers were pretty scarce, and the Arena was really the only way to get them. And people just couldn't run in with a bunch of plus 10 5-stars, we weren't that far yet. In addition, with the game being as new as it was, we didn't have skill inheritance, so you couldn't exactly put close or distant counter on anybody, they were only exclusive to Hector and Takumi. You didn't have seals, you didn't have skills like Special Spiral, and you didn't really have too many units that were specialized in certain areas with their stat line. Over time, all of these things came about and higher merges became a lot more prevalent, and that's when the game kind of shifted into what we've got today. So basically, the whole overarching problem is just that when the game first came out, they didn't know the Arena wasn't built to handle the endgame units it's got right now. Because that's what we have. It's a bunch of endgame units designed by people who have done their best to figure out how to maximize their points, even if they're not using the units they like or their favorite units. So, how are we going to fix it? Well, there's a couple things we need to consider. When you queue up for a round in the Arena, there are 5 factors that are used to figure out your Arena score and what kind of enemy you should be fighting. These factors are character levels, character rarities, bonuses gained from merges, total base stats after removing effects of all skills and equipment, and the value of equipped skills, which counts as SP. Not all of these things are an issue, but the two that are right now are the SP and the BST. So, as promised, I've come up with a change for it. And I've actually also included something that all of you guys might find interesting and even more worth your while to add as a reward for the Arena. And let me just say, this solution could potentially fix literally everything. This theoretical idea is going to balance out all the issues. It'll remove you having to pick specific units every 2 weeks in order to score well, with the bonus units being what they are. It'll actually cause Grand Hero Battle and Tempest Trial units to get different stats if you so choose, and it'll give you guys a new reward to work for. But alright, I've bullcrapped you guys long enough, so we're just going to get to it. This fix has 2 parts, and we're going to be tweaking the way Arena calculates score in the first part. And like I said, we've got 5 factors, and it's actually not as outdated as you guys might think. It really does only need just a small tweak. We need to change at least 2 things of the 5 in the formula that we've got though. I won't be touching the character levels, character rarities, and the bonuses gained from the number of merges, because these function perfectly fine. they're not the problem. They don't need changed. We're going to start with the SP, and then we'll move into the BST. With SP, we're just getting rid of the way it works. We're changing it completely. The problem with measuring SP is it's actually kind of counterintuitive in a game of strategy, because you're supposed to find the best strategy to use instead of just building all your units one way and then going to fight other enemies who are built the exact same way as you, and it just becomes kind of a wet noodle fight. We don't really want that. Due to this, I thought up a couple of ways, but the best way that made sense to me was to replace it with a tier rating instead. And it would work like this. Let's say we're working with Vantage. We'll start out with Vantage 1, which will only give you 100 points. When upgraded to Vantage 2, it'll count as 200, and Vantage 3 will count as 300. Kind of in the same measure of SP, it's just that we've changed the values. It's done by skill level instead, which makes the game far more open to different skills being used in your skill slots, and you're not going to get penalized for not having a skill that's either not distant counter or close counter or something along those lines. The same thing is going to apply for specials, but we're going to knock them down to 2 tiers only. First level and then everything else. We don't want to heavily outweigh Ether, as well as not give skills like Glimmer the Spotlight, because they all kind of have their own uses. And you can't really take them away because some units make use of other skills better than others do. It's just the way it works. We're also going to knock down Deathblow 4 to probably a 3rd tier skill, because it's the only one that's in its own technically upper 4th tier. If we ever do gain a 4th level of skills, then we can change that, but till then it's just kind of best ignored because it's simply more effective that way. We can't really have people only running around with Deathblow 4 just because it scores more. It completely defeats the point of what we're trying to do. Distant counter and close counter will automatically count as 3rd tier skills just because of what they are. And weapons will get the same thing. We'll start out with 5 tiers total for them, and the first 4 are just going to be all the upgrades you can go through. And the 5th tier is going to be refines. Weapons with distant counter built in are automatically going to count as 5th tier weapons on par with refines. This, of course, would change if for some reason they were ever to get refines themselves, which, the way Intelligent Systems is doing it, I wouldn't be surprised if Ike eventually got a refine here, just because of how many people love him. But if we do get refines for those, then the weapons with distant counter built in that aren't refined would just get knocked down to 4th tier, and their refine would take the 5th tier spot. But overall, that's how I'd handle the changes for SP in my theoretical arena. Next, we're going to deal with BST. And we absolutely have to handle this because armors and dragons are just always naturally going to have higher base stat totals than any other unit. It's what it is. We need to change it to accommodate all units and kind of put them on an equal playing field. I'm not saying we discount BST, but we have to have an adjustment. And the solution I came up with, honestly, after thinking for a couple months, is that they should just receive a bonus that allows them to technically emulate having the same BST, even though they don't. Let me give you an example. This is a list I came up with based on the average max base stat totals of units to give an idea of how many bonus points they should technically kind of receive. This list was made after a lot of math was done, and it's not perfect, but I do think it works out for what it is. I've set this up so that each unit should be totaling about 180 stats when at max level. That's not including merges. And I do believe legendary heroes should total about 185 since they're legendary and you should only be carrying about 1 in your party. Looking at this list though, you might be a little confused. See, if you're a smart person and you know how to math, I'm sure you've already looked up Male Robin and realized his BST of 151 isn't going to hit 180 if you put 21 into it. It's 172, we're 8 points short. See, this is where fix number 2 comes in. And it's actually also where I fix the Tempest Trial and Grant Hero Battle units and give you guys something new to work for. Do any of you recognize what this is? This, my friends, is an energy drop. It is a strength stat boosting item first introduced in Path of Radiance, Fire Emblem 9, as well as your solution. You should be able to see where this is going. My ultimate plan is for every single unit to get stat caps put on all their stats, and stat boosting items used on them till their base stat total hits that max using those bonus items. So, this might sound a little broken, but I'm just going to give you an example here real quick. We're going to take Ira and Lon Ku. And Ira's original BST is 163, while Lon Ku's is 157. And after applying the bonus of 11, Ira's going to need 6 more to reach 180, while Lon Ku is going to need an insane 12. Now for Lon Ku, this might sound a bit broken, like I said before, but if we make sure we have respectable and moderate limits on his stat caps, we can actually fix Lon Ku's low attack, because it can be heavily increased, and we can fix his low defense. And it actually ends up making him a lot more viable without being broken, as long as we don't mess up the stat caps on it. It'll put him on an equal playing field with a lot of the other swordsmen, and it makes his life and death refine a lot more useful. I'll even take it a step further with legendary heroes and say that their +5 boost that they're getting should be with stats instead of a bonus. And it's, again, because they're legendary. I would prefer to keep them that way. People love Hector, people love Ike, people love Grima. There's just a lot of people that really care about these units, and if they're legendary, they should be kept special. And besides, adding an additional 5 to their stats isn't going to break the arena, because the bonuses they give units during their season is worth more than just the small increase that they would get through these IV increases. In addition to that, caps would also change dependent on IVs. So if it was possible to boost the stat by 3 before hitting the cap theoretically on a neutral IV unit, the same would be true for a unit with a boon in that stat, while they lose 3 off the cap in their Bane stat. Now, again, I want you to understand, you might be saying this sounds incredibly broken, but obviously these stat boosting items aren't going to come cheap, and a team of stat boosted units is going to be extremely hard to come by for quite a while. You're going to have to earn these. That's what I mean when I said we're going to add something new to the arena as rewards. These are what I'm thinking you guys are going to need to trade in for them. And I know you guys know what these are. You're already using them for seals and promoting units, right? Well, I'm thinking it's about time we make them just as valuable as feathers, because right now, these medals are barely worth anything. I've got way too many of them just sitting around in my inventory, more than a few thousand at least at the bare minimum, and considering there's 4 kinds of them and 5 kinds of stats, this could work very well. My idea for obtaining them, as an example, goes like this. The feather amount that you would trade in would be pretty insubstantial, maybe like 200 or so, but the number of the metals being traded in for the items would be pretty frickin' drastic. We're talking about 10,000 per one item, or in the case of Sarah Scarfs, you'd trade in 2,500 of each kind of metal. This would help make it so that the cost of obtaining these was extremely high, and they'd be really sought after, which would really encourage arena play. And it would be a fresh change to it because you have something new to work for. Alright, I know that was a lot, but let's just say that all of this works, it all gets put in. For those of you who can see the bigger picture here, you're gonna still notice we've got one new problem. If everything is worth the same amount of points, how do you rank? Thankfully, I already accounted for this as well, and Intelligent Systems has already answered this question with other game modes. We just make your swords fill up over time so that you can't stay away from the arena for too long. We treat it like stamina. You want to rank well, then you play a lot. And just like Ether Raids and Tempest Trials, your scores become cumulative. We will be keeping the fact that if you lose a unit in a fight, the amount of points you get would be lowered. And this way it doesn't really undermine the value of your dueling sword refills, because, you know, when you run out, you can just throw one down and you get it back. I'm sure a lot of people, kind of like me, have over 200 dueling swords. And if I ever decided I was going to score well in the arena, I could score very well in the arena. It makes it function so that you have to fight as often as possible, and you can't lose units in order to get the highest score you want. But that's basically my overall fix for the problem that is the arena. Oh, there's one more thing I want to take care of though, and that's with the bonus units. Instead of having bonus units that rotate out and only getting a select few, I just honestly think it'd be better to have a certain movement type become the bonus unit. You'd have infantry units being the bonus units, and all infantry units would get a bonus instead. Like, there would literally be an arena week for the unit type. this would be much more appealing because at least then you're switching through teams and you gotta change up your tactics a bit. In addition to the bonus units being based on movement type per week, the other thing that would be included would also be a ban list with this. A certain amount of these units would be banned so that they actually wouldn't gain bonus points for being used. If they were to be used in your team, it would actually cause it so that you didn't gain any bonus points at all. The reason for doing this is teams at this point are pretty set in stone. People are very set on the teams that they have and the teams that they want to use. The team doesn't function at its core as well as it should with that person missing. It's going to cause people to either train up new units or replace it with somebody they already have. It just kind of helps to change up your tactics a bit. And I mean, frankly, if they're only banning, say, like 8 or 9 of a certain movement type, it's not going to hurt that many different units because there's so many different options for you to pick from. We have enough units in the game now that there should be plenty of options to replace those who aren't able to participate for that week. It would add a little bit of a twist to it, I think. But, alrighty. I've gabbed a lot, so we're just going to do a quick review and we'll wrap it up. In order to change the arena, we need to change 2 things of the 5 factors that come into it, SP and BST. We're going to change SP from a measurement of the level that it took to earn the skill, and we're just going to turn it into a tier type system where it counts the level of the skill. BST, we're going to fix by giving lower BST units more bonus points to put them on a level playing field. And after that, you can get stat boosting items in the arena, as well as we're going to change the bonus units dependent on their movement type. And last, finally, the more you play, the higher you're able to rank because your score is now cumulative. And that's really my fix for everything, guys. That's my personal solution to the current arena problem. I know it sounds like a lot of work for intelligence systems, but honestly, everything worth doing takes a lot of work. The game itself wouldn't exist with all the time and effort they poured into it, so I personally find this idea pretty appealing, and honestly, Arena could use an overhaul. I mean, just look at Ether Raids. The amount they put into that game mode made it absolutely great. I love Ether Raids. I don't get to play for very long because my Ether stamina runs out real quick, but I really do love Ether Raids. I don't see why they shouldn't put in an equal amount of effort to the arena. And if you're curious about putting stat caps on every single unit, literally all you have to do is make a new section of code, attach it to a unit, and you can copy-paste it to every single unit and alter it. It's not that hard. I've programmed a little bit. It's not that hard. But that's it, guys. That's enough for now. As always, let me know your thoughts down in the comments. I'm always open to arguments against what I've said and more refining details to make the theory a little better. I'm also always open to new ideas you guys might have if you'd like to see me talk about something. And I'm always good for fart jokes. I love a good fart joke, so those can be dropped left and right anytime. Thanks for your time, though, guys. And as always, I'll see you around.
All right.